Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Journey Church. We're so glad you've chosen to join with us today in worship. I understand that these days, when online worship is our only option, that it's not the same as in person, and there are some challenges. However, there are some silver linings as well. We had someone message us a little while ago saying that they've joined our church, and they can't wait to attend in person. Maybe you're new, and you also would like to connect with us. You can by going to journeycentral.ca, and there you can fill out a hello card and give us some information about you so that we can connect. There you can also find an e-group that you can attend, a group that throughout the week digs a little deeper into the message. There you can also find options to give, as some have been asking how they can give during this time. We also are accepting e-transfers at give.journeychurch@gmail.com. But that's not the most exciting part about giving. I would love to share with you today that as of today, we have delivered over 2,200 meals to those in need. I am so thrilled to see the outpouring of support and love and volunteering, and I thank you who have helped us. If you would like to help and haven't yet been able to, you can email us at serve@journeyonline.ca. Or if you know of someone who needs help, or you yourself needs help, you can email us at care@journeyonline.ca. We have a wonderful service in store for all of us today, and a great treat as I'm not going to be preaching. You'll notice the background is a little bit different today. But actually Pastor Luke and Vanessa are going to be sharing with us, and I can't wait to hear that. Let's worship the Lord together this morning.
Raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I raise a hallelujah. Heaven comes to fight for me. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. I raise a hallelujah with everything inside of me. Hope will arise. Death is defeated. Sing a little louder. 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 In the presence of my enemies. Sing a little louder. Louder than the unbelief. Sing a little louder. Our weapon is a melody. Sing a little louder. Heaven comes to fight for me. Sing a little louder. In the presence of my enemies. Sing a little louder. Louder than the unbelief. Sing a little louder. Our weapon is a melody. Sing a little louder. Heaven comes to fight for me. Sing a little louder. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. I raise a hallelujah. Raise a hallelujah. Raise a hallelujah. Raise a
Hey everybody, it's Pastor Luke here, and this is my wife,
Hi, I'm Vanessa.
and this is our daughter Eleonora, who is passed out asleep. Believe it or not, this is the only quiet moment we could get to record the message for this morning. Earlier we tried, and our dogs were barking at people walking by. Eleonora was doing all kinds of crazy things, and maybe we'll put a couple of those clips in here so you can see that. But we wanted to continue the conversation that we've been having about Psalm 23. Today we're talking about Psalm 23, verse 5. Vanessa, do you want to read that for us?
Sure. You set a table for me, right in front of my enemies. You bathe my head in oil. My cup is full. It spills over.
Yeah, I think I really love this verse, and just like Pastor Palmer said, this is kind of a part of this shift in Psalm 23. The first 4 verses, if we look here, say, "The Lord is my shepherd and I lack nothing." It talks about how he lets us rest in green meadows and restful waters. He keeps us alive. He guides us in right paths. And so, last week, Pastor Palmer talked about this shift that, now we're talking about the things that will go wrong. Even though God is there and he is leading us to all these great things, the things that will go wrong in our lives. So last week we talked about verse 4, even when I walk through the darkest valley. And then this week, he's setting a table for us, this great feast, but it's right in front of our enemies, which is a crazy thought. I mean, the fact that God would prepare this banquet for us. Because when you think of sitting down to eat, you're usually like relaxed, you're at home, it's the end of the day, you're ready for dinner. You've taken off your shoes and your coat, and maybe you're in pajamas already. I don't know. I've done that before. And you're just totally safe and relaxed. And you're eating. So I wouldn't really be, feel safe or relaxed if I was just eating dinner in front of all of my enemies, right? Like I don't picture that. So it's just this unique thing when we're in our most vulnerable place in front of our enemies where our defenses are up. God is sitting there just getting ready for a party. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. Just, who are our enemies? And so I had a chance to talk to my students this week in our e-groups, and they kind of gave me some insight into who their enemies are. And so they said things like laziness when it came to their schoolwork or their housework, or just being not motivated because there's no school going on right now, so there's really nothing to do and nothing to work towards. There's no sports, no expectations really. And there's also things like, loneliness, anxiety, laziness, and then even financial hardship for some of our students, and especially for some of us adults. We have a lot of people who are laid off and lost jobs right now. So like those can all be enemies to just our lives, and things that are working against us and fighting against us, things that we're battling against. But I think one of the enemies that we all kind of look over sometimes, and I don't know if you agree with this, but like, is the person we wake up to in the mirror. It's ourselves. The people that we battle with the most is ourselves. I battle with myself all the time. I have a filter problem. I think Vanessa can agree. And I stick my foot in my mouth, and I after I say some things, I take a moment and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, you idiot, what are you doing? I'm my biggest enemy. I make things harder for myself all the time. And so we just wanted to this morning, share a little bit of our testimony and a little bit of our ongoing war of life, just kind of against some of the enemies that we faced and some of the battles that we've been in the first, almost 6 years of marriage. So we want to talk about just the first 4 years of our marriage, just kind of this ongoing battle to start a family, and it even started before we were married. There's just this kind of ongoing struggle. It's not to start a family, but when we were just dating, you got into this really crazy car accident, which delayed school, man, and then we got married and moved to the States, and you got pregnant and moved to Canada. And then we were separated for a year and a half during that time. We found out just, at 25 weeks that we had lost the baby. And Nevaeh, our girl, was stillborn in January of 2016. And then from there on, for the next 3.5 years, we suffered miscarriages, a year and a half of not being able to get pregnant, more miscarriages. And there was a lot of battling and a lot of heartache, and I think that you especially struggled with some battles, when we lost Nevaeh.
I think going back to what you said of being your worst enemy, especially with Nevaeh, she had at 12 weeks we were told she had basically my heart condition is what we were told. And so when we lost her, I just always battled with, this is my fault. That she died because she had the same heart condition. I passed this down to her. And even today, I still, even with every miscarriage, with Eleonora, I always go back to, this is my fault. Because I have the heart condition. I am passing these conditions down to my children.
Yeah, right.
So that's something with what I battle with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's been an ongoing battle that we've walked through together, and it's challenging. But I think even through all these experiences, all these things that we've gone through, God has set up this feast for us in the presence of these enemies, and in the midst of these battles, He's bathed our head with oil and made our cups to overflow. So what did that look like? What did God blessing us look like in those first 4 years from your perspective?
For me, I I was very vulnerable, especially like in the first year, and someone told me to journal. And so I did, and I put a blog up there. And I was connected with other people that were also struggling with uh, miscarriages and losses and things like that. So I got to minister to some of these people. And it's nice to know you have support and like you're not alone in these times.
No, absolutely. I think that's a really cool thing about this verse specifically is the imagery that God kind of paints, that he's going to set up this feast, right? This table right in front of my enemies. And so the thing about when you hear the word feast or banquet or you don't think of just a candlelight dinner between two people, right? When you think about having guests over and you think about having a feast, you think about multiple people, a lot of people, a huge family, a big group of friends, a party, right? And so that happens in the middle of these battles, in the face of these enemies. You get connected with people who have a common enemy with you, and even who people these people who don't have the same enemy as you, they care about you, and the people who care about you and love you, they'll make your enemy their enemy, and they'll face that with you, right? And God puts you together and equips you, and it's just that is awesome. And so I think now we want to talk about just this last year of our life, which if the first 4 years of our marriage wasn't crazy enough and just heartbreaking enough and hard enough and battle after battle, this year we had this huge victory, and it's right here in my wife's arms. Most people wait 9 months to meet their little person that they're giving birth to, but we waited 4 years to finally have a child that we could have and hold and keep and watch grow, and it's just been an incredible journey. But it's been tough, leading up to Eleanor's birth. Everything looked really good, but then kind of last minute we see some of these same heart conditions coming up again, and find out after she's born that she has something called pulmonary vein stenosis, which we went home and madly researched and find that 80% of the kids who are diagnosed with this don't live past the first couple of years, let alone a long and healthy life. And it was just so scary, and still scary, right? Just knowing that she has this condition, and then on top of that, going through the first 4 years of her life and having to bring her to 4 different funerals, with the loss of your mame, Vanessa's grandmother, and my great uncle, and then my uncle, and then my grandfather. We just couldn't believe it. But if you can believe it, there were some crazy blessings in even those first few months, the first summer of Eleanor's life. And just like Vanessa said, circumstance brings people together. And so with Eleonora and this diagnosis, Vanessa was able to connect with so many people who had children with similar diagnosis, and just be able to support each other and join together against that common enemy. And as tiring and as wearisome as it was to travel back and forth all summer to our families' hometowns and things like that, to attend all these funerals and be with our families, we were literally surrounded by loved ones almost the entirety of the summer while we were finding out about this diagnosis from Eleonora. As we found out more about the outcomes of this diagnosis, and as we're finding out about these passings of our loved ones, and we were surrounded by the people who cared and supported us most, and were able to care and support them. And I think one of the biggest blessings is that we got to see Eleonora, who was 3 and 4 months, 5 months at the time, light up people's lives. I mean, just bring joy into people's lives. And I mean, that was just, we were, hesitant in bringing her and spending too much time with our family, thinking, oh, we have this newborn baby. We don't want to be a burden to somebody who just lost their husband or their father, their brother, even though we had this loss too. And we were totally proven wrong, and God just used her to bless my aunt who lost her husband, to bless my grandmother who lost her husband, and to bless my family who lost a father, a grandfather, a brother. It was just incredible to see God use our miracle to bless others in that time. And that was God providing. That was God in the midst of all of those enemies that we faced, setting up a feast. And it was, we feasted, if you remember, in our little community, in Easton. When something like that happens, it's not just your family and your extended family that comes out, it's the community that comes out. And it was surrounding communities, and there was food that was just, we had to bring in like a deep freeze. There was like food stacked up everywhere in every fridge, and drinks were just in coolers because there was no room in the fridges. And we got together every day for lunch and every night for supper, and it was just incredible. God literally set up a feast in front of our enemies. And I think that, sometimes we're in the middle of those things, it's hard to see anything good. And I think it's easier now, looking back, to say, yeah, there was good during that time. But when you're in the middle of one of those battles, you don't see anything else except for the enemy. You don't see anything else except for the pain and the hurt and the heartbreak and, all the brokenness that happens during that time. But if you can see through the bad, then you can see the good. And I think that's the most important thing. You've got to be able to see the good in anything you go through, because it's there. God is there, right? In front of our enemies. Even now, we just had a scan on Friday in Halifax, and the news we got was no change, right? There's been no change. It hasn't gotten any worse, but it hasn't gotten any better. And honestly, we can look at that and say, well, this thing's not getting any better. It's never going to get any better. It's a progressive disease. It's only a matter of time. But we choose to celebrate the fact that God has allowed that this disease to not progress, to not, take any further steps in making our daughter any more ill. And she is just so strong and so full of life and such a blessing to us, let alone all the thousands and thousands of people that are praying for her and connected to her and feel like they're, that she's their granddaughter or their daughter or their, it's incredible.
And we just want to thank all of you guys for your thoughts and prayers, not only for the last few months, but over the last few years we've been a part of Journey. It's incredible to see what God has done in this time and what he's doing, and just amazes me of what he's going to do. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for letting us share with you this morning, and enjoy the rest of the service.
Make it easy to love you. You are good and you are kind. You bring joy into my life. You make it easy to trust you. You have never left my side. You've been faithful every time. All I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you, nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Oh Jesus, you came to my rescue, to my place upon that cross. You redeemed what I had. My whole world revolving around you. You're the center of my life. You're the treasure, you're the prize. Lord, all I want is you. Jesus, all I want is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you, nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Follow you anywhere. Oh, I'll follow you anywhere. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me, Lord, all I want is you. Jesus, all I want is you. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me, Lord, all I want is you. Jesus, all I want is you. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me, Lord, all I want is you. Jesus, all I want is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you, nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Follow you anywhere. Oh, I'll follow you anywhere. Oh, follow you anywhere.
Well, I don't know about you, but my heart is filled with blessing today. Thank you so much, Luke and Vanessa, for sharing with us and the challenges that you were able to give us. I want to just remind you before we go, if you would like to give online, if you would like to find information about our e-groups, if you would like to fill out a hello card and let us be able to connect with you, do that by going to journeycentral.ca, and we would love to hear from you. Have a blessed week, and we'll see you again next week.